people that want to keep it a buck. We're going to keep it a buck.
Okay.
My office used to be above Credit One. And
I thought you were a nurse.
no parties. However, him,
Do you need the office as a nurse?
the dark, Martha.
Where's Martha laughing?
They would hang out. Part of the reason even they wanted black was they wanted a place where they could go and hang out.
And do what?
Like,
Carlos.
listen to music, drink, play
So,
cards.
Kimmy, I'm going to say this to you.
Oh, Carlos.
You're a gay man.
Child.
I can assure you, no man is hanging out after hours listening to Beyonce Renaissance.
No, I don't think they were I don't think they were.
You know that moment when someone who always seemed in control suddenly loses everything? The power, the influence, the spotlight, all gone in a single announcement. That's exactly what happened, and trust me, no one saw it coming like this. Carlos King, the man who built his name on creating drama, suddenly found himself living in one.
A lot of stuff, and I ain't happy about none of it. I'm trying to figure out what the going on anyway. I mean, she had no business goddamn putting her hands on you.
I mean, that's my thing. You gonna act like this in front of your daughter, Sanjay?
Sanjay acting more like the adult. That's the way she's supposed to.
A lot of people that want to keep it a buck. We're going to keep it a buck.
Okay.
My office used to be above Credit One. And
I thought you were a
there
nurse.
no parties. However,
Do you
him,
need the office as a nurse?
the dark, Martha.
Where's Martha laughing?
They would hang out. Part of the reason even they wanted black was they wanted a place where they could go and hang out.
And do what?
Like,
Carlos.
listen to music, drink, play
So,
cards.
Kimmy, I'm going to say this to you.
Oh, Carlos.
You're a gay man.
Child.
I can assure you, no man is hanging out after hours listening to Beyonce Renaissance.
No, I don't think they were. I don't think they were.
But here's the twist. This wasn't a storyline he could edit, control, or cut out in post-production. This was real life, and it hit harder than anyone expected. For years, Carlos stood behind the scenes, pulling the strings, shaping narratives, and turning ordinary moments into unforgettable television. He was known as the mastermind, the one who could turn tension into ratings gold. But what nobody expected was that one day, the cameras would turn away from him, not because he chose it, but because he was pushed out, fired.
Drops. The word of the day is stop living in the past. The past is in the rearview mirror of your life. If you look at where you want to go, look at the windshield.
Listen, everybody, behind me is Carlos King, okay, a producer of reality TV on the OWN network, and the fans are pissed with him. I mean, pissed, okay? They started a petition. They want him removed from his duties over there on Love and Marriage Huntsville. Now, you know what? I'm not one for the cancel culture, and I don't think that toxic reality TV started and nor will it end with Carlos King. But what are your feelings? Do you think that Carlos King should be canceled? Do you think he should be removed from producing Love and Marriage Huntsville? Do you think all the toxic behavior that we see on that show starts, ends, and begins with Carlos King? Let me know your thoughts, everybody. Cancel or not cancel Carlos King?
Just like that. And when the news broke, it didn't just shake the industry, it shook him. Because behind the confidence, behind the success, behind the reputation, there was a man who never imagined losing it all this way. Carlos King didn't just wake up one day and become a powerful name in reality TV. His journey was built step by step, moment by moment, through years of hard work and sharp instincts. He started from the bottom, learning how television really worked, understanding what audiences wanted even before they knew it themselves. Early in his career, he gained attention for his ability to create stories that felt real, raw, and impossible to ignore. He had a gift. Not everyone could see it at first, but once you watched his work, you understood. Carlos knew how to keep people watching. He understood emotions, conflict, relationships, and most importantly, he knew how to turn all of that into something people couldn't stop talking about.
Again, okay, not the girls. So Carlos King, former producer of The Real Housewives and now the producer of Love and Marriage franchise on OWN, is slamming The Real Housewives of Dubai, calling them fake.
As time went on, his name became stronger. He wasn't just another producer anymore. He became a brand, a force. someone networks trusted to deliver results. Shows under his influence gained loyal audiences, and his reputation grew with every successful project. But success like that doesn't come without pressure. Behind the scenes, things weren't always as smooth as they looked. There were whispers, complaints about how far things went for the sake of drama. Some cast members felt pushed, others felt misunderstood. But in the world of reality TV, that line between reality and production is always blurry. Still, Carlos kept moving forward, because in his mind, he wasn't doing anything wrong. He was doing his job, creating moments, telling stories, giving audiences something unforgettable. But here's where everything started to shift. What once made him successful slowly began to work against him. The same intensity that built his career started raising questions. People began asking, was it worth it? Was the drama crossing a line? At first, it was just quiet conversations. Then it became public opinions. And before anyone realized how serious it was, it turned into something much bigger. Because what nobody expected was that the very industry that lifted him up could also take everything away. The moment the news broke, it spread like wildfire. Carlos King fired from national television. People couldn't believe it. Some thought it was just another rumor, something that would be cleared up within hours. But as more details came out, it became clear this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was real. And suddenly, the man who once controlled the narrative had no control at all. Behind the scenes, tensions had been building for a while. There were disagreements, creative clashes, and growing concerns about the direction of certain shows. Network executives were starting to feel the pressure, not just from within, but from audiences as well. Viewers were changing, expectations were different. What once entertained people was now being questioned. And Carlos, known for pushing boundaries, found himself right in the center of that shift. But here's the twist. It wasn't just about ratings anymore. It became personal. Reports started surfacing about conflicts between Carlos and key figures behind the scenes. Conversations turned into arguments. Arguments turned into decisions. And those decisions led to one final outcome. He was out, just like that. No warning that the public could see, no slow transition, just a sudden, shocking exit that left everyone trying to piece together what really happened. And while the internet exploded with opinions, reactions, and speculation, one person remained at the center of it all: Carlos himself. At first, there was silence. No statement, no explanation, nothing. And that silence, it spoke louder than anything else. People started asking questions. Was he okay? Was he fighting back? Was there more to the story? Then, finally, he spoke. And what he said wasn't what people expected. Instead of anger, there was emotion, real, raw emotion. Carlos didn't come out attacking anyone. He didn't throw blame or start a public fight. Instead, he opened up in a way people had never seen before. He talked about feeling blindsided, about the shock of losing something he had built over years, about the pain of being removed from a space that felt like home. And for the first time, people saw a different side of him. Not the producer, not the strategist, not the man behind the drama. Just a person dealing with loss. But here's where things got even deeper. Because as he shared more, it became clear this wasn't just about a job, it was about identity. For so long, his work defined him. His success, his influence, his role in shaping television, it was all part of who he was. And now, suddenly, that part was gone. Imagine waking up one day and realizing the thing you dedicated your life to is no longer yours. That's the kind of moment that changes you. And Carlos didn't hide that. He spoke about sleepless nights, about questioning everything, about wondering if all the sacrifices were worth it. He admitted that he felt hurt, not just by the decision, but by how it happened. No closure, no real explanation, just an ending he didn't see coming. But what nobody expected was how deeply it affected his personal life. Because when something like that happens, it doesn't stay at work. It follows you home. It sits with you in quiet moments. It shows up in your thoughts when everything else is silent. Friends noticed the change. The energy wasn't the same. The confidence, while still there, had cracks in it now. And family, they saw the real impact. They saw the emotional weight he was carrying, the moments where he tried to stay strong, but couldn't. Because at the end of the day, no matter how successful someone is, moments like this remind you they're still human. But here's the part that really hit people. Carlos didn't just talk about the loss, he talked about the lessons. He admitted that maybe, just maybe, things could have been handled differently, that in chasing success, there were moments where he might have pushed too hard, expected too much, or overlooked things that mattered. That kind of honesty, it surprised people. Because in an industry where everyone is quick to defend themselves, Carlos chose reflection instead, and that changed the conversation. Suddenly, it wasn't just about him being fired. It was about growth, accountability, understanding what went wrong and what could come next. But even with that mindset, the emotional impact didn't disappear overnight. There were still doubts, still questions, still moments where the future felt uncertain, because losing something that big doesn't just go away, it stays with you. And for Carlos, it became a turning point. Not the end, but something else, something that forced him to look at himself, his career, and his choices in a completely different way. And maybe, just maybe, that's where the real story begins. Because sometimes losing everything isn't the worst thing that can happen. Sometimes it's the thing that shows you who you really are. As time passed, the noise started to settle. The headlines slowed down, the reactions faded, and the world moved on, just like it always does. But for Carlos, things were still very real. Because while the public may forget quickly, personal battles don't disappear that easily. He had to sit with everything: the loss, the emotions, the questions that didn't have clear answers. But here's what makes this story different. He didn't let it break him. Instead, he started rebuilding, slowly, quietly, without the spotlight. He began focusing on what he still had, his experience, his knowledge, his ability to create, because even though one door closed, that didn't mean his entire journey was over. And maybe that's part people didn't expect, because it's easy to watch someone fall, it's easy to talk about their mistakes, but watching someone rise again, that's a different kind of story. Carlos started shifting his mindset. Instead of focusing on what was taken from him, he began thinking about what he could still create, what stories he could tell next, what direction his life could take now that everything had changed. And slowly, something started to come back. Not the same as before, but something new, a different kind of strength, a deeper understanding of himself. Because sometimes it takes losing everything to truly see what matters. And in those quiet moments, away from the cameras, away from the pressure, Carlos found something he didn't even realize he needed: perspective, the kind that doesn't come from success, but from struggle. And maybe that's why his story isn't over. Maybe this isn't the ending people thought it was. Maybe it's just the beginning of something no one saw coming. Because if there's one thing we've learned from all of this, it's that life doesn't follow scripts, not even for someone who spent years writing them. So the real question isn't why he got fired. The real question is, what happens next? Because if you think this story ends here, trust me, it doesn't.